Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Membership Voice. I'm Caro O'Shea, the coordinator of The Voice and the host for this evening's webinar. I'm delighted to welcome past Governor David Mayne of District 9660. Of course, David was 9650, I think. But hey, David, how are you?
Good, thanks, Caro. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks, mate. I'm fine, thanks.
Good to see everyone there.
It is. But just take a moment here to acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land here in Perth on which I'm hosting tonight's webinar. I acknowledge the strength of their continuing culture and offer my respects to elders past, present and emerging. It's time for tonight's presentation, and I'm delighted to introduce past Governor David Mayne to tell us all about RYLA to Rotary, the design stage. Over to you, please, David.
Right, thanks very much, Caro. Good evening, everybody. And before we start, I just want to talk briefly about the current program that we're running. And I see quite a few RYLA alumni there, and we've actually got one of our incoming leaders, Daniel James, is with us too. But I want to talk about the program that we run very briefly, and it's developed over a number of years. And I've actually got Management Committee member Rob Anderson here too, which is great. Feel free to chime in anytime, Robert. But one of the things we do is we've developed a program over a number of years for the participants, and it comes in this booklet here. I'll try and get that so it doesn't. And it's 110, 120 pages worth that the participants go through. They go through that, but that's not just left for them. What we do is we have a leader's manual too. That's the leader's manual, and we have a special day dedicated to leaders, and leader training. So that's one of the things we go through. Now, what I want to talk about is how we transitioned our RYLA program into Rotaract, Rotary and other projects within Rotary. So often I've heard it said, and I've been doing this for a long time, often I've heard it said, we fund these programs, we send these participants to NYSF and to RYPEN and to RYLA, but we never see anything of it. And I think we've developed a pretty good formula in 9660 or 9650 previously for having a transition, a smooth transition to the Rotary world from RYLA. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just go through a few points and discuss each point. I won't kill you. I've sort of broken it down to 7 stages of engagement for RYLA to Rotary, and hopefully we'll be able to, and Rotaract, of course, and hopefully we'll be able to cover those. So stage 1 is effectively know the demographics of your area, your district. That means, are you a rural area? Are you an urban area? Are you a city area? Are you you've got a coastal area? Are you tourism? Are you of a different ilk in the area? Because every district in Australia is different. And of course, 9660, my district, is the same. Very, very different. So then we've got understand where your participants are coming from. Are they from the farm? Are they people that are workers in the city? Are they regional workers? So you need to understand each one of those. And this is even before you develop and put in paper your program. So you need to work very closely with your program director so that they understand what is your draw card. Who are the people that are going to be your participants? Develop a program, as I said, to suit those participants. You need to cover the program and make sure that it is it reaches all of those people. Because some of them you're going to have, look, to be honest, they're going to be cowcockies, country people, farmers, and then other ones you're going to have accountants in the offices. So you need to have a broad paradigm of understanding of each one of those people. Train leaders, including leaders. Now, with our structure, we select 4 leaders from the previous year, and we have a leader's leader from the leaders before. So there is one leader's leader, and in this case, in the room here today, it's Daniel James, and then you have 4 leaders that were selected. These people are not necessarily selected because they were outstanding at being leaders or really grasped the whole intent of the RYLA program, but it's those people that we feel could benefit from being there another year. Those people that we feel that could really grasp a little bit more by being there again. In stage 2, present a program no less than 7 days duration. Now, Everston, the head of, of obviously the head office of Rotary in the world, they stipulate that the program must go more, 7 days or no less. And there is a good reason for that, because you get a lot of the program going out and you get a lot of bonding. The first few days are just a feeling out process. And then after that, there's an enormous amount of bonding that goes on with the group. And you can tap into that bonding, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. Then generic community service opportunities and programs. Just hang on a sec. I'll have to lessen that a little bit. What do we got here? There we go. And programs. The reason for doing that is that you start to bring in, okay, you don't ram down Rotary down their throat to start with. You let them know broadly about community service organisations, where community service stands in the scheme of things in your community. Like it's often said that schools, primary schools, universities, high schools are the heart of a community. And then you let them know that community service groups are actually the soul. And you explain to them that reason. Do not concentrate on Rotary. However, have it underlying in just about everything. You don't want to ram the Rotary thing down their throat. There's no need to do that at this stage. They know they're there. I mean, they're at a Rotary Youth Leadership Award. They know that it's a Rotary. But at this time and this stage early in the program, it's not a good idea to just sell it like it is a marketing exercise. There's no need for it. Relevant speakers on a range of topics relating to elements of the manual. So every manual is different. Our manual is the same. It talks about personal branding. It talks about pillars of service. It talks about emotional intelligence, conflict resolution at home. There's a whole lot of different areas, that you bring up. Have speakers that relate to it. In the old days, what they used to do at RYLA was Rotary people come and talk about their job. So in one program I saw years ago, there were 4 morning speakers and they were all accountants. God bless accountants. However, 4 of them in one morning session is too much. So you make it a little bit more relevant to the topic. So we have a series in our program, a series of speakers that come from outside Rotary that come, but they relate directly in their talks, relate directly to the program. And it's worked very well indeed. Encourage ownership of the program to encourage engagement. That means in the manual that they do, they have to actually participate. It's not just a reader's manual. It's a reader's and writer's manual. They have to put down thoughts. They have to put down comments, suggestions, ideas into the manual. So they are getting part of it. And what they write down, they are free to have input into the sessions. They relate what their feelings, thoughts, ideas are throughout the sessions onto paper, and then they have an opportunity to share that through the sessions. And I think that that's really, really important, and that gives them ownership. Just a couple of photos. Some of the activities they do. We generally are, and I must say, I'll go back one step. In the morning is the sit-down programs. We may have guest speakers, etc., as you can see on the right, and they will speak, and there's sit-down opportunities for people to write in a scholastic sort of environment, academic sort of environment. And then in the afternoon, they have the activities like raft building or the mud run, et cetera, and that's been very successful. Once upon a time in the early days, we used to have a lot of these activities in the morning. That did not work because in the afternoon they were wrecked. They were too tired, and we were losing some of the participants in the afternoon. More of the activities, just quickly. A lot of the activities are based on teamwork, leadership understanding, leadership implementation, and they were often stepped way outside of their comfort zone. In a lot of cases, way outside of their comfort zones. And I'll be honest with you, we've had tears. And people have come back and said it was the best thing they ever did, but they hated it. So, just a few more. Now, stage 3. Halfway through the program, what we do is we conduct an off-site dinner. Now, we do that deliberately, and that is usually sponsored by a club that the camp is held in. Rotary clubs are invited and participants run the evening. So even though a lot of Rotary clubs will attend, they'll be all Rotarians just about, the participants run the evening, including their MCs, their performances, their testimonies, and their speakers. They run the night, but they feel that they're showcasing to RYLA, to the attendees, which are Rotarians and representatives from the different clubs. At that event, have a pre-arranged speaker, usually a Rotarian or someone famous in the community, talk about community, district, national and international projects. This is where the wow factor comes in. The Rilerians feel that it's just a generic talk to the group, but it's actually a focus to them. An external person talking specifically about Rotary projects. For example, it could be Polio Plus, or could be some of the Nepal hospital, or it could be something else that they're doing in the islands in the Solomons, or something like that. The peer leaders, now these are the leaders that were selected the year before, will be attached to a Rotary or Rotaract club, and they generally are, and will casually speak throughout the week about programs and projects. So it is not left to a huge big sell about Rotary or Rotaract. It is something that they will talk about in their groups. Each leader has a group of 8 to 10 people, and they'll talk about some of it, and it'll be just casual. It is not a stealthful sell. It's nothing like that. It's just generally related to the topic, and the leaders will bring up points about the programs and projects that are run. And most of the time, the Rilerians will go, wow, we didn't know Rotary did that. And it's quite encouraging. In the presentation hall, have a static display such as pull-up banners of projects and programs, e.g. Polio Plus or whatever. So you have it in the background, as well as your RYLA or Rotary banners. And that's really, really good. When people want to know about or be involved in hands-on projects and not necessarily bread, roll, weekly dinners. I was talking to Kero a little bit earlier about this, and it was funny how so often the young people, when they finish the RYLA program and they join a Rotaract or a Rotary club, they will tolerate the Wednesday, Monday night dinners with the bread rolls, we call them, et cetera, et cetera. But what they want to do is roll their sleeves up and paint fences, build walls. They want to be active. And we've got to remember that when we transition someone from RYLA into a Rotary world. A couple more photos. The bottom left one is actually, it's important. We teach them public speaking, and it's an amazing attribute. And a lot of them have said that's one of the primary things they learn, because obviously public speaking can be terrifying for some. Stage 4. Near the end of this enlightening week, introduce specific leader-feeder topics to the participants that relate more directly and specifically to Rotary and its areas of service. By the term leader-feeder, I mean these are where you're bringing up topics about Rotary specifically. You're talking about some of our 7 areas of service, what we can do, where we operate, and then relate it to what they're doing in their RYLA experience. And it's amazing how it actually works. They see something, because at this stage, when they're more than halfway through the program, they start to think, what's going to happen at the end? What's going to happen when we leave here? It's just going to be left high and dry. So we leave them opportunity to follow up. Open avenues of connectivity post-RYLA. Explain how Rotary and Rotaract is a great vehicle for participants to continue and expand their RYLA journey. And this is important. One of the things that we have discovered over many years, and we call it PRD, and we warn them from day one that you will suffer from PRD. PRD is post-RYLA depression. And it's funny. I mean, it's obviously not a clinical diagnosis. However, it is something they suffer from. They don't want to leave. I remember one day leaving a camp, and I was last to leave. I had to hand in the keys and all the rest of it, and it was about an hour or so after everyone else had left. I drove out of the campsite, and there were 6 vehicles parked outside because they didn't want to leave. And this is the thing. It is a real thing. So that's why it's important to have the leader feeder. Once you have, in the process of running a RYLA program, say there's more to it. It doesn't stop on Saturday when you get your keys back. Participants to write their names down if they are interested in continuing their experience and would like to be involved in a club, projects or programs. So on the last day, what we do is we have a sheet out there as casual as anything and say, if you want to know more about Rotary clubs, Rotaract clubs, any of the programs or projects that Rotary run, write your name down. Every year I am shocked at the number of people that want to do it. They want to do something. And that's why it's important. Explain through personal testimonies from current peer leaders what they are doing in the Rotary world. Better coming from them than the old heads at this stage. So you get the young ones, the peers, saying, oh, well, I'm in this Rotary club. I'm in this Rotaract club. This is what we're doing. This is the project we're doing. This is why we're raising money for books in Moree, or we're running for a centrifuge in the Nepal hospital. You know, practical things. That's what they want to do. And they benefited from their experience. So they're sharing what they benefited from their experience. Ensure that participants understand the strong links between the RYLA program they have just completed and the personal benefits to that individual themselves in continuing their journey through Rotary or Rotaract. And that's really important. They can see a link. It's like a follow-up, a natural progression from their RYLA journey. Prior to RYLA finishing, participants that have shown interest in continuing their journey or learning more about it, they'll be contacted and we'll arrange a meeting. That's really important. Okay, why has this seized? Of course it's seized. Let me see. There we go. Sorry about that. Due to the nature of the RYLA program, there is an enormous amount of bonding and unity, and it happens. One of the things I say when I open the RYLA on the Saturday morning, the first morning, I say to them, you are sitting next to somebody that may be your best friend for life. And they all look at me and think, that's ridiculous. Why is he saying that? What a silly old man saying that stuff. And they've come up to me more every year. They come up and say, you were right. And don't think that there is class distinctions. We have a doctor a couple of years ago who ended up best friends with a guy that pushes trolleys at IGA. And it happens time and time again, and they keep in touch. They're encouraged to review those manuals and other learning resources that we hand out through that week. It's follow-up, and that goes on for years. Not just a few weeks after RYLA. I'm still contacting people from 2008 and going through different parts of the program with them. They're all married with kids now. Participants are also to seek fellowship with each other and consult leaders to discuss issues and victories through achievement goals. They set their own achievements. They set their goals. And they each have a closed Facebook site, for example. And I think Facebook's modern. It's not, apparently, it's old hat. However, they have a Facebook site, and we're in that, but no one else. It is a closed site. So they share, and they're comfortable sharing with each other because it's a safe place. And they share their victories and they share their defeats. One time we had a young bloke who was having all sorts of trouble, and he was not doing real well. 2 carloads from the coast drove inland to support him. That's the bonding that happens. Participants are not to leave RYLA without knowing that there is still support and follow-up available to all of them. And that's important. Encourage and help organise a reunion. Have a date for a reunion and a venue if possible. And social and also program review. That's important. Then here we get some more photos here. Very dirty. They're very muddy people, Rilerians. Okay. Conduct an online meeting for those interested in furthering their RYLA journey, but don't do it any more than a week after RYLA. So we have a Zoom meeting a week later while everything is still fresh in their mind, and they still want that urge, and they're missing their friends, they're missing people, that they want to be engaged, they want to do things for their community because now they've learnt so much about themselves and their part in a community. At that meeting, discuss in depth what's available and who would like to be involved in what and at what level. This is how Charlotte Moore and Caitlin Davey started the Rotary Club of Young Leaders in 9650. They got together. Unbelievable, those two, and also the Young Leaders group, all Rilerians. They started from that meeting a week later. And I think it was a huge amount, 10 to 15 or something, new members at their changeover they inducted. And it's phenomenal. And the work that they're doing. They were actually doing community work, major community work in northern New South Wales before they were even chartered. So they were very keen. Let peer leaders run the meeting and old heads be there to help and answer questions only. They don't want the old Rotarians to dominate the discussion. Let them do it. Let the peer leaders do it. Their age group do it. Find key individual drivers from the alumni that would start the Rotary wheel turning, like Caitlin and Charlotte. Engage them into mobilising prospective members, and that's really, really important. They know these people. They've spent a week in a very close and intimate situation at RYLA, and it is a bubble. They've learned a lot about each other, so they know who would be good at what. Stage 6. Find appropriate Rotarian mentors and club sponsors to help and engage with the Rilerian alumni. Do not let these sponsors or mentors try and purposely direct or over-control these young people to dominate them. Be there as support and mentors. Rob and I and the current District Governor, Neville Anderson, for our District 9660, were mentors for the Young Leaders Club. And we were there just to answer questions, to help out. If they needed some information from RI in Sydney, we were able to do it. If they needed to get some ASIC information, we were able to get that information to them. But we didn't spoon feed them. They had to do a lot of the work themselves. It was important because that's part of their growth. Suggest, not direct, and that's important. Do not dominate young people. Suggest a small project or program to get them involved and motivated. Perhaps give them a selection of possible projects and let their newly formed club decide. Let them decide. Give them some ideas what they want to do. And I suggest that they do a local one, a district one, or a national one, and an international one. But it's not mandatory. They don't have to. It's just something that they may like to do, and it helps them as well in progress in their RYLA and Rotaract journey. Keep them involved as Rilerian alumni and encourage reunions and new RYLA participant sponsorship. Now, I know with the Rotaract Club, one of the Rotaract clubs, no, actually both Rotaract clubs in 9650 last year, and the Young Leaders, part of their fundraising was towards sponsoring Rilerians, so sponsoring another participant. And I think that's commendable too. And that's a great idea. So you keep them involved in their RYLA precepts. Stage 5 and the final one. It is looking at the big picture. It is not just RYLA. We're looking at young adults 19 to 27, obviously in RYLA in our district. Some of the ages vary in other districts. But it's important to understand that it goes back much, much further than that. We recently just sponsored a Rotary Kids group in northern New South Wales, 60 members in that Rotary Kids. I know Walker have an Interact club going. Canamble have an Interact club going, and they are all the 4 main office bearers in the Canamble club have all been through the RYPEN program. They approached us. So it's very encouraging. Have strong links with the high schools and the primary schools. That's important. If you've got Rotarians in there, all the better, but have a good relationship with advisors and principals, etc., and make sure you maintain that. Identify key stakeholders such as those in those institutions. In collaboration with schools, instigate Rotary Kids, Interact groups. These will transition into RYLA eventually, and they will never, ever forget the word Rotary, even from the primary school. They will remember. So you've got to look at the big picture stuff and how it transitions. And that's just about it. So thank you very much. I'll stop sharing that.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, David. That was wonderful. But I'm really interested to get your comments on something that Trish Carr has put in the chat there. Trish, would you like
the 20 hours of community service?
Yeah, Trish, would you like to just outline that thing to David for us, please? Because I'd like to get him to comment on that.
We're District 9810 and we're working in conjunction with 9820.
Yep. And
what we've done is we've required Rilerians to do a 20-hour community service. So you can see me now. I've just found a quieter spot. A 20-hour community service with all clubs, which is work to treat. But we also did a Rotary Expo on site at RYLA. We've only just done that about 3 weeks ago. And we had Rotarians come and show projects, then a social impact pitch. We taught the Rilerians how to pitch an idea, and then we gave them, out of the expo we gave them a pick of a number out of a hat, and they had to look at one of those projects and work with the Rotarians on site to talk about a way to either develop the project, and they came up with some incredible ideas, and those clubs have now taken on those Rilerians to run their actual projects now. So they've developed the projects that they've been running and developed them even further. And then the 20 hours, we've been encouraging clubs not to get them to do a sausage sizzle, but absolutely. I'm glad you're all nodding because you all know how that works. But to actually say to them, what do you think we need to do for young people? What can we do to help? And in fact, I went to do a presentation for one of our Rilerians at a club, and they talked about creating a mentor program. So that's what we're facilitating with the club, and the Rilerian also helps to have some Rotaractors in there going to RYLA, because one of our Rotaractors on the bus back actually was pitching to them about joining the club, so they've already got a few that have joined.
Yeah. See, that's excellent. Is what you're showing there, Trish, is that you're showing engagement straight away from RYLA, so they're coming back. One of the things that we do, and I've got a few, there's an awful lot. I see Richie Goddard there and a few of the other Rilerians, but one of the things we do is make sure that they come back to the club and give testimony of their week, which is mandatory. But also they have the opportunity to engage in projects as well. And I think that's excellent. What happened was we had so many and they've gone now, but we had both Caitlin and Charlotte on here now, but I know they've got a board meeting tonight, a Rotary board meeting, so they had to go. But they actually approached us and said, we want to start a club. And I said, I was thinking they wanted to start a Rotaract club. And I said, that's fine, that's good. You want to join a Rotaract club or you want to start one yourself? I said, no, we want a standalone Rotary club. And they did. And that was fantastic. So they are the Rotary Club of Young Leaders, and we've got another one coming on very soon, another club. But this was and Trish, you actually hit the nail on the head. It's important to have in place that engagement before you even start, so that they know through the RYLA program that there is something else going on a little bit further. Regarding the ratios for Rotary and Rotaract, I couldn't give you a qualitative amount, but I don't know, Rob, you might be able to help here, but I don't know. We've got ourselves several Rotaract clubs and obviously a Rotary club, and some of these people have gone from Rotaract into Rotary clubs, but that's for another talk. But they've actually progressed into Rotary. But I got notified recently, like a week and a half ago, that our district has probably one of the best transitions of RYLA and Rotaract to Rotary. So, sorry, Glenda, I can't answer you directly qualitatively, but yeah.
No, thank you for that. But it is interesting to know that you've got such a good or high percentage of this. You just said the word and it's just left me. I need another scotch, I think.
Yeah, we all do.
The transition. I have a fair bit to do with a Rotaract club down here in Melbourne, and they've moved from District 9800 now into District 9790, and trying to help them work out ideas as to what they've got to do to attract the younger generation. They all love RYLA, but they can't get enough people to go to it. So, but it's interesting to know, because their focus is they're going to do RYLA and then bring them in as members to Rotaract. But by the sounds of it, you sort of the people that do the RYLA are stepping right up to know we want to be that Rotary club. We want to get out there and do it different. So
I think the thing that really drives it is that we have a waiting list to attend our RYLA in the old 9650. And Rob's nodding there, sometimes we have to have, and this year was no different, we had to cut off, didn't we, mate?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, we had to cut off. So we're thinking in 9660 of having a southern and a northern RYLA now, because we just need to have it that way. But what they've done, and this might answer you, Glenda, and Richie's gone now, but Richie suggested what we did do in the past was we actually, every RYLA person would suggest somebody else, a peer, a friend, a relative that they feel would benefit from RYLA and nominate them. So they always do. So it's a how many times we've got RYLA babies we've had, and it didn't happen at camp, but we might have been one, Rob? But what we've had is husbands and wives have come back in different years and they've teamed up, people have teamed up, et cetera, and they've had people coming. One of the things we don't do, we don't have siblings in the same year or close friends. It's too dangerous, because it'll shift the dynamics and they won't benefit as much. So we make sure that we don't have that. We actually had a daughter of one of the leaders come, and that didn't work out well at all. So you've got to be very, very careful that you don't have those things close. But we had two friends that wanted to come. One came one year and the other one came the next year. But they always, what I'm saying to you, Glenda, is that they'll always say, okay, I know somebody. I know somebody. We don't ram that home, but we say, think about someone you know that could benefit from coming to the program.
Yeah. Excellent. You really are a shining star in
I don't say that to him. He'll get a big head.
Well, I won't get a big head. There's a lot of people behind this program, Glenda. There's a lot. We got told we were one of the top 3 in the world a couple of weeks ago.
Oh my goodness! Well, congratulations.
Thank you. So that was nice. That was nice to get that accolade. But it's not just me. It's like Rob, and it's got Richie, and there's a heap. And you got Nina down there, who was a leader this year, sorry. And you've got a whole lot of different people. We've developed that program, and it just doesn't stop. I mean, 2 Sundays ago, Rob and I sat down in Glen Innes in northern New South Wales, looking at revising some of the program. So it's a full-time job.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for your time and your effort and for sharing it with us today. I'm assuming that Kero will get maybe some slides that we can, because I was writing profusely, but I didn't catch everything that was said. So, David, are you sharing slides with us later?
Oh, look, I'll send that. I'm going to send that whole presentation to Kero anyway. So,
There are some things to do with this that I think generic that we as a movement need to look at. And I'm thinking back to what Charlotte and Caitlin told us when they were on in part 1. You got the club up in 10 weeks, you and Neville and the Charlotte, Caitlin and the crew. But one of the things that Charlotte and Caitlin mentioned was that there was a bit of hard yakka involved in terms of incorporation, all the things that go into creating the club. Is there something that we can do better when it comes to creating these clubs in that regard? I know you and Neville were very busy at helping, but is there a gap there?
Most definitely. And one of the things, if I was to do it again, and it looks like I haven't even told Robbie this yet, but he'll be doing it again. But, one of the things that we will be doing is making sure that we have more input into it. We didn't want to overstep the mark, and we kept thinking, okay, you've got these young people, they've got to go through the ASIC hoops, they've got to go through. We put them in touch with like Trudy in Sydney and all the rest, and we did all that. But perhaps we should have been shepherding a little bit closer to take the stress off. So to answer you, Kero, yes, there are things we would do differently, probably be more involved. We would not make the calls, but we'd let them make the calls, but we'd be over their left shoulder, if that makes sense, just to make sure.
So it's just that closer in support. So that's great.
We need to do that.
The other interesting thing that came out, and this is a broader conversation that's happening around the place, because as we know, our trend lines in terms of member numbers across the zone are not moving the direction we'd like them to, and that's the price of Rotary membership. We've got a number of issues involved here, and I recall that when we were talking to Charlotte and Caitlin, the question of the standard $300 a year Rotary membership came up. And I think Charlotte had said that was a week's rent, some of her members. And I thought she put that one pretty well. Is this an issue for it? And how, if it is, how did you deal with that one?
Yeah, most definitely it is an issue, because you've got to remember the demographics of these young people. 80% are still studying. 80% don't have a high income base. So what we have done is, for that first year in the district, now this is 9650, as you know, we've just amalgamated with 9670 to form 9660. But in 9650, what we did was we waived district fees for 1 year for a new club. It's mandatory that they pay their RI fees, obviously, and their Rotary RDU fees. But what we have done is now they have a choice of how they want to pay, whether they want to pay their district fees weekly, monthly, or 6 monthly, et cetera, and they can do that. And it makes it a lot easier for them. So instead of having, $280 out flat, or towards $300 out flat, you might have to pay $22 a month or something like that. And that's a lot easier for them to do. And you're quite right. It was really a something that would worry the members. It would worry these young people. They want to be involved, but they just can't afford it. And as Charlotte said, it's a week's rent for these kids. Even at uni, it's expensive, you know. So what we do is we make sure, and this happened recently, as I said, there was 10 to 15 that were just recently inducted into that Young Leaders Club. What we do is we make them fully aware of the financial burden of them and how they can attest it. So there's no nasty surprises when they come in, when they join. And I think that's important. They need to know that. And that's from a Rotaract point of view too. So they're all aware of what funding and what money is required.
Thanks, David. One of the things that, and I suppose there's two parts to this question, and I'll probably deal with the Rotary specific or the youth program specific one first. One of the things that we know is that by developing new members in particular, we increase the likelihood of them seeing value in Rotary and Rotaract and staying longer and getting to a stage of being fulfilled by the experience. We have a number of post-RYLA programs around. RYLA in Western Australia is one I'm aware of. You know, RYLA Oceania is probably closer at hand for you there in New South Wales.
Yeah.
How do you see these programs playing into the future of, say, something like the Young Leaders Club?
Sure. Now, this is interesting in our area, and I see that I've got my classmate here and past history Governor Amanda Roach here, which is nice to have here there, Amanda. What we do in our district in 9650, we will make sure that nothing is, as I mentioned during the presentation, there's nothing cut off. There's no, okay, see you later, bye, that's the end of RYLA, go away. There's always a leader feeder. And we make sure that we have follow-up for all of them. Let me give you a quick example. Our secretary, Louise Matthews, she ended up saying, oh, there's a few Rilerians in town, they're going to meet me in the beer garden of a hotel in Tamworth. And she thought she was going to turn up. She turned up and there was all these people in the beer garden going through their manuals, their RYLA manuals. And that's what they do, the mindset. So they do that. Now, we make sure we do that in the district and follow up, et cetera, not always over a beer, but we make sure we go through it. With like Oceania, for example, and the other one in, West Australia, Kara, what's that one called?
RYLA.
Yes. Yeah. These are great programs to follow up. These are great programs, and I know, and I've spoken at the Oceania one in Sydney with their first conference, and it was great. And they had them from all over New Zealand and Australia come, and that is important, and it's their leaders that attend that, and it's important. It's a time of fellowship, but they still need to understand that that is just a support for the Rilerians post-RYLA, but I cannot underestimate the benefits of going back to a Rotaract or a Rotary club and sharing what they've learned. I think it's important that I hate the word integration, but I can't think of a better one, integrate back into the Rotary world and use those programs like Oceania and in Western Australia as boosters and revitalisers. And I think that's a good idea. And I think that they need to be not monitored, but it needs to be. I'd love to see the programs and what they plan on doing and this sort of thing. I think it'll be fantastic. Yeah. Bottom line, Kara, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a wonderful programs for following on with their RYLA thinking, but I think they need to utilise that and bring it back to their clubs.
And that brings me to a next question. During our preliminary chat, and I forget the name of the place, it starts with a W, two Rilerians joined the club, and you mentioned their name when we were talking.
Yep.
Obviously, traditional clubs are going to get much more interested in this if they get to pick up I use the word pick, to recruit the occasional new young member through this process. What sort of fatherly advice would you have for clubs with those aspirations?
Okay, that club was Walker. You couldn't have got any more traditional than the Walker Rotary Club. They would have been considered old hat to Paul Harris. So, two members there, they went in, it's tempting to have these young people, shove them on youth, shove them on vocational, get them as a secretary, get them as a treasurer so that we don't have to do it again. Don't have them do that. Have them sitting there, get them involved in programs and that sort of thing. Do not give them office bearer positions in the first couple of years. Please, please, please. Engage them in it and make them part of it and maybe see what they want to do. Don't say, oh, you can be Sergeant at Arms tonight, and they really don't want to do that. The good, well-meaning clubs and the members think that's really nice, we're engaging them, but they might not want to do that. Let them sit at the door and take money or something, let them do that sort of thing. See what they would be happy to do and get them engaged. And have them, this is something that we've done at my club, have them come to a board meeting or a club assembly. And as we know, we're Rotarians. I'm looking around at all the Rotarians we've got in this room. Club assemblies are a great fun thing. And what you get them to do is you ask them, what do you think we can do? Ask them, engage them, empower them. Say, what do you think would be a good thing for our club? What would you like to see in the club? A listening ear is what they want. They don't want to have, oh, yeah, we tried that. Yeah, we tried that. It never worked last time. Well, guess what? Try it again. I know one particular membership driver, it was a club on the East Coast here that I spoke to recently, and they tried doing one style of getting members 3 times and it didn't work. They didn't get anyone. They tried the 4th time and guess what? They got 5. Sometimes you just got to try again. So what I'm saying is don't throw water on their gunpowder. Encourage them and let them have the ideas, but don't ever say, yeah, we tried that, it didn't work. We tried that, it didn't work. If you want to say that to them, say to them quietly, individually, but give reasons why you think it didn't work. Just don't cut it off.
So there are 3 wise people that I've been listening to recently. One is our Rotary International Director, Jessie Harmon, who's advocated very strongly that we need to make our clubs member-centric. In other words, it's a matter of finding out what members want. Our new Rotary International President wants us to imagine big time, and I think that's fantastic. And one of the things that she's advocating is entrance surveys, to actually get someone who's new to your club, survey them, interview them, find out what they want so that it fits in. So Jessie and Jennifer are on the same page there. Yeah. And I note that one of our successful club models at Campbelltown in South Australia, who have 84 members, including about 30 under the age of 40, do this as a regular part of their club routine. Do you see a place for that in the conversation that clubs have with with your potential Rilerian recruits?
Most definitely. And I would not call it a survey, I'd call it a questionnaire, just so that you can get greater input. Surveys sort of can be limiting, but a questionnaire on what they feel that they want to see and what they can do in the club and in the community. Make it big picture stuff. Don't make it club-centric. Think, okay, you're part of this club. It's great to have you here. It's fantastic. This is what we plan on doing. What do you think about further afield? What do you think about district, national, international? What do you think we could do? Have them involved, engaged, and empowered. And also, it is very hard because I've been in Rotary 26 years. And it worries me sometimes when I'm thinking, I hear these young people come in and I'm thinking, okay, the light's gone. I don't know what's happened there. There we go. And we're thinking, okay, I'm an old head or considered an old head. I don't want to stifle the thoughts and feelings of the young person. But really, you need to direct softly. And when you're talking to somebody and these young people, whether it's a questionnaire or a survey, and you want to direct them, use the 3 B principles: be brief, be bright, be gone, which just means be upbeat and positive. Don't go long-winded about it. And that's it. Move on. And I think that's a good thing to do. I mean, having been someone who's studied behavioural science, it gives me a bit of an edge. But I mean, it's just interesting to see. So to answer your question, Kara, I think it's more or less involvement, engagement, and empowerment that you need to do with these young people. Have what they have to say. I would say yes, a questionnaire would be good, but don't do it just for them. Have it throughout all the membership, like Jessie was talking about, Jess Harmon was talking about, have all the members write it out and then all of them see it. There is no bad comment. There are no bad thoughts or even feelings if you need. Now, leave the feelings to an assembly.
David, that's fantastic. And I've just noticed that John's made a statement that I think looks like a great question. John, is your question there about co-mentoring between older and younger members?
Yes, it is, or more like a comment. Oddly enough, I'm actually from RYLA 9650 from 2019, so David and Rob's. But as I've learned over the last 10 years of youth programs through Rotary, it is a good idea to bring in the younger members so they can learn hands-on skills from the older generation. But also the older generation can learn a lot about like technology and fresh ideas from the younger generation type thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Super.
Yeah.
Now we've come to the time in the evening where it's pretty much last question time. And David Mayne, there's a question that I love to ask empowering club builders in Glenda's. I can see that look on Glenda's face. She knows what's coming.
Yeah, I got a feeling too.
David Mayne, why are you a Rotarian?
Okay, and that was something I was asked just recently, and I could come with the standard line of saying because I felt I could make a difference, or I felt that I could be part of a growing movement, or I thought that it could help me in my business at the time and network out there, all these things. The honest reason was because when I was asked, I was actually on council for 10 years and I was Chamber of Commerce president and all these things. So I didn't have to kick many goals. But what happened, and I was some of you know, I was in the media for a long time, but one of the things that stood out was I wanted to do something that was at grassroots level. And I want to be selfish here and say I wanted to have friends and fellowship that I could count on and that I knew it was going to be there and that I could enjoy. And I remember reading an article about Paul Harris, and he said one of the reasons he started Rotary was because he was lonely. And I think that's something we should be thinking about. And I felt not that I was lonely, but I was lonely for a certain type of fellowship that I needed, and it filled that gap. And I've always wanted to help others and be involved in others' programs and projects. And it was a beautiful avenue for that. And I don't think that's changed for me at all.
Fantastic. Thank you, David. We're going to express our appreciation for what I think has been a fantastic presentation and Q&A. So join me, please, in thanking David for a job well done.
Bravo.
Thank you, Robbie. Thank you.
No Monty Python quote.
Nice one,
Fantastic. Thank you
there.
Well, can I just show you while we've got 3 Rilerians there, we've got Nina actually, but she's not on screen. But we actually have a RYLA salute. On the count of 3, boys. 1, 2, 3.
Be busy.
Solidarity, Rich.
Solidarity.
It's a cult.
It's a cult, yeah.
Yeah, always is, always will be.
Brilliant. Just absolutely love it. Love that energy. Thank you for being with us tonight. We look forward to seeing you at another Membership Voice presentation because we really enjoy having you here.
Great.
Thanks, Kero.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
See you later, Dave.
Done it again, Kero. Well done. Thank you,
Thanks,
Dave.
Linda.
Catch up when you're next in town.
Yeah.